and Ebola. His primary research areas include translational bioinformatics and epidemiology, computational systems biology, comparative and functional genomics, biological ontology, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. As many of you know, he taught thousands of undergraduate students and supervised more than 30 postgraduate students in South Africa, especially at UCT and AIMS. In addition, he worked for the University of Ghana, or supervising students from there, as well as from the DRC. In 2021, he received a very notable C2 rating from the National Research Foundation of South Africa for his outstanding contributions to scientific research. Dr. Mazandu was principal investigator for a UCT Research Committee seed funding award and a National Research Funding Incentive Award. In fact, it was just the other week that I was signing off on him opening his own funds, which was quite remarkable. So in addition to everything that I've said to you, he was a co-investigator for the H3A Bionet, as well as co-investigator and consultant on 2 United States of America National Institutes of Health funded projects in the Division of Human Genetics. So much about, and that's just a summary of the work. He was doing a lot more than that, as you can imagine. Apart from that, Dr. Mazandu was a devoted family man. He is survived by his beloved wife, Madame Marie Paul, his 4 children, who are all here in the front of the audience, Jemima, Claudie, Karen, and Emmanuel, and his siblings. He was also an active and supportive member of the Congolese community in Stellenbosch. I think for many of us who knew Gaston and knew him reasonably well, what stands out way above his academic achievements is his personality and his gentleness as a human being. So he will be remembered for his calm nature, humility, generosity, and kindness, especially to his students. Colleagues, that's what we've had down on paper, but obviously, you know, Gaston was a much more 3-dimensional human being than that. But just in the interest of time, we've got to proceed with the program. And at this point, I would have liked to have introduced Pastor Joseph Matondo Kwanzimbi, but I understand he couldn't make it. And we have a colleague from the community who will deliver the prayer on his behalf. And we will have the prayer translated. Thanks very much.
Okay, bon après-midi à tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Si nous sommes ici cet après-midi,
If we are here this afternoon,
à cause de la mémoire de notre papa, Gaston Mazandu,
to celebrate the memory of our dad, Gaston Mazandu,
comme la Bible dit,
as the Bible says
Ecclésiaste 7, verset 10, verset 2,
in Ecclesiastes 7, verse 2,
mieux vaut aller dans la maison de deuil
better to go to the house of mourning
que d'aller dans une maison de festin,
than to go to the house of feasting.
car c'est la fin de tout homme.
For this is the end of all men,
Celui qui vit
and the one who living
prend des choses à cœur.
will take it to heart.
Ça, c'est la parole de Dieu.
This is the word of God.
La parole de Dieu reste toujours la parole.
The word of God will remain the word of God.
Comme il y avait une histoire dans la Bible,
As there was a story in the Bible,
dans toute la mémoire de chacun de nous,
in each of us memories,
Lazare était avec un homme riche.
Lazarus was with a wealthy man.
À la fin de,
At the end,
Lazare était dans le lieu de repos.
he was in the resting place,
L'homme riche était dans l'enfer.
and the wealthy man was in hell.
Il plaidait beaucoup à Père Abraham
He was pleading to the father Abraham
d'aider lui d'envoyer quelqu'un d'aller dire à son frère.
to help him by sending someone to his brother.
Mais c'était tard.
That was late.
Il avait dit, si quelqu'un de mort allait pour parler à eux,
If someone dead going to speak to them,
il ne va pas écouter.
they will not listen.
Il y a Moïse, il est là avec les prophètes.
Moses was there with the prophet.
Quand on va parler,
When they will speak,
on va écouter.
they will listen.
Si on ne va pas écouter,
If they don't listen,
on va te rejoindre là où tu es.
they will join you where you are.
Dans toutes choses, nous pouvons dire que Dieu puisse nous conduire.
In everything, we can say that may God lead us.
Nous sommes dans l'état de prière,
We are in the time of prayer.
l'ouverture de la prière.
This is the time to open our prayer.
Seigneur Dieu le Tout-Puissant,
God Almighty,
je dédie ce temps entre tes mains.
I dedicate this time in your hands.
Sois notre Dieu,
Be our God.
conduis-nous par l'aide de ton Esprit Saint.
Lead us by the help of your Spirit.
Du début jusqu'à la fin,
From the beginning to the end,
car ta parole dit,
because your word says
tu es l'alpha oméga.
you are Alpha and Omega.
Dans notre mémoire de notre papa Gaston Mazandu,
With regard to the memory of our dad, Gaston,
lui, il était quelqu'un de paix,
he was a man of peace.
il aimait des gens,
He loved people.
il participait aussi si les gens ont des problèmes,
He was assisting if everyone has a problem,
parce que nous sommes aussi venus
because we also came
pour leur mémoire.
for his memory.
Que le Saint-Esprit nous aide
May the Holy Spirit help us
du début jusqu'à la fin.
from the beginning to the end.
Chaque programme entre tes mains
Any program we surrender to your hands.
soit l'auteur de tout.
Be the leader of everything.
Dans le nom tout-puissant
In
Jésus-Christ,
the mighty name of Jesus,
nous avons aussi prié.
we
Amen.
so prayed. Amen.
Colleagues, thank you very much for leading us in prayer. Just in terms of the informalities, colleagues, so the program is laid out in a way that you will have academic colleagues as well as people who have worked and studied with Gaston, in fact, being his tutors earlier on. And this, apparently there's been an outpouring of grief as well as concern from colleagues from all over the world once they heard that Gaston had passed away. So the work in the background that has been done by colleagues that have worked with Gaston very closely, and here I want to take off my hat to people like Vicky Mbaware, especially, who has been working with Ambrose and colleagues in the sickle cell unit in terms of gathering all of these messages and preparing this afternoon's function. So just in terms of the function, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, there'll be tributes from colleagues, there'll be tributes from towards the end from the family members, and I'll read and I'll explain to you exactly who is about to do the tribute. Just in terms of logistics, so this is the New Learning Center. But for those of you who need to go to the bathroom, it's just outside. So as you step out here, the first doorway on the left and a quick left again. Okay, that's where you'll find the bathroom. Both female and male bathrooms are next to one another. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to urge you to kindly stay around or remain behind after the function, if this formality is over, just in terms of sharing something to eat and drink. So colleagues, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our Dean, Professor Lionel Thompson Green, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences. The Dean visited the family a day after Gaston's passing away and offered support from the Deanery to help with organizing the event. Many thanks also to people like Nave and Paul in the Deanery. The Benefits Office and HR supported the groups and were patient in explaining processes and offering support. The Wonkum Group, Ramesser Group, and Department of Pathology are strongly supporting the eventuating of this event. Professor Lionel Thompson Green, thank you.
Welcome to the Faculty of Health Sciences here in Observatory, our academic home, the place where people come from all sorts of places to engage in the enterprise of learning, of discovery, and of changing the world of tomorrow. Welcome then to Madame Marie-Paul. Welcome to our space. I'm not sure if you often visited it with your husband, but welcome on this occasion. And then to the 4 children, Jemima, Claudie, Karen, and Emmanuel. Welcome to us this afternoon. It's a singular honor for the faculty to be able to give you a space today to share this moment of reflection and this time of praying in a way that we can experience a spirit that is sometimes greater than who we are as we celebrate this transition of what by all accounts is a significant human being. Welcome to the members of the Congolese community who have shared the journey with Gaston to this time and appear to be supporting the family quite strongly. We welcome that community amongst us here. Welcome to his colleagues who would have shared the thinking around many of the projects that he worked on here in the faculty, and by all accounts, a significant contributor and a mind in that space. Welcome to his friends who have joined us both in the room here and online. This place that we occupy today was first called by the people who were the very first people in this area, the Khoisan people. It was called Kamirodi Khais. Kamirodi Khais means the place of the stars. And we are acknowledging today in a deeply special way the fact that Gaston was one of our stars. He had come into our galaxy here at the faculty and shone what appears to be for a short time. And today as we come in celebration of the fact that we acknowledge that the star had begun to shine on others and make them more clear in where they should be going. But importantly, his star changes into an ancestral realm, which allows us to continue to communicate with that stardom. This collection of stars that gathers in this place recognizes his contribution and recognizes with sadness this moment. I could tell you today of the extraordinary scientific achievements of Gaston in a very short time. I could also tell you that the colleagues who've spoken to me have spoken about the fact that his work is going to be difficult to replace because of that exceptional gift of seeing in an abstract way, in seeing things in a way that other people can't, even the gifted researchers amongst us. I could tell you that many of them have experienced him as a humble human being whose capacity didn't reflect in his behavior. I could tell you of the students who will celebrate the fact that they had him just for a moment as their supervisors, and in the supervision process would have experienced him as convincing them that they were more than the sum of their parts. I could continue in that way, but I would be failing to acknowledge that what we celebrate today is just humanness, is our capacity as Africans to be human. And I would have failed if I didn't acknowledge today the community of the African diaspora as it exists in our faculty. I want to acknowledge the contribution that the community of Africans who move away from their homes to come and make a contribution in the society, often not in a welcoming space, often in a contested environment. But today, I would not be serving the faculty if I didn't acknowledge the fact that people like Gaston continue to make a significant contribution into who we are and who we are becoming as a faculty. And so for South Africans across the country, I want to say a word of thanks to those of you who come into our community and make us better. I'm deeply grateful this afternoon for the fact that Gaston chose us amongst whom to work. And so we are better for who he was able to contribute, for what he was able to contribute here. In the old African saying, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, we are better people because he was amongst us. But whenever we come into a moment of death and dying and transitioning into that ancestry that I speak about, you will hear much that celebrates the meaning of this life. And if we think a little bit today about what the meaning of this death is, it is that it calls each of us to recognize the things we celebrated in Gaston and translate them into action for a better world. If we come and all we hear is the mourning, and the mourning is a part of this process, if we only see the mourning, then we would have failed the vision that he had. in that H3D Africa project. That project begins to document a scientific history of Africa and its promise into a future. The work he was deeply involved in speaks to us about the promise that each of us must make to change tomorrow, the world in which his sons and daughters will reside. And so, colleagues, as I come, and I don't want to speak for a long time today, I want to just say in the words of my own ancestors, as I come from Zulu ancestry, "Sicela uNkulunkulu akududuze emndeni kaMazandu." We ask that God will comfort you in this time, however you construct God to be. We trust that God will be alongside you, and sithandazela ukuthi nibe noxolo, that you feel peace in time. Lala ngoxolo, enkosi kakhulu.
Nkosi kakhulu, Dean. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for wrongly naming my dean, whom I know very well. He is Lionel Green Thompson and not Lionel Thompson Green, so forgive me for that. Colleagues, we then quickly move on to tributes from work colleagues and friends. And in this regard, I have the privilege of asking Professor Jean Lubumba to say a few words, and he's going to give a pre-recorded message. And he contacted UCT after hearing of Gaston's passing. Thank you.
And children Mazandu. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I should start by apologizing for not being able to attend this event in person due to reasons beyond my control. I also wish to stress how painful and shocking Dr. Gaston Mazandu's passing on is for me as his former supervisor. I would have expected my former students to bury me and not the other way around. I have known Dr. Mazandu since the academic year 1993-1994, as he was taking my course of numerical analysis at the University of Kinshasa. He was a bright student. There were no doubts in my mind that he was a promising young mathematician. During his academic journey, Dr. Mazandu has demonstrated that he was truly a talented mathematician and applied mathematician. In December 1997, he completed under my supervision his honors essay on finite element method with 85%, and he received the honor degree in mathematics with distinctions. Dr. Mazandu went from strength to strength in his further studies and in his work as a researcher, as the colleagues who talk shortly will certainly mention it. Hence, Dr. Mazandu was an excellent ambassador of the School of Mathematics and Computer Science of the University of Kinshasa. Dr. Mazandu's premature death is a huge loss for the school and for the scientific community, where he had a strong footprint in cutting-edge research in epidemiology. Dr. Mazandu dedicated his honors essay to his wife in the following terms. I quote, "À notre épouse Malungidi Mbambi, voici les prémices de la lutte menée, de persécutions endurées, de peines et joies partagées. Que ceci puisse nous unir davantage pour le bonheur de notre foyer." End quote. After the defense of his honors essay on the 27th December of 1997, Dr. Mazandu came to my office with his wife to thank me. What a wonderful couple I had in front of me. While I extend my deepest condolences to Mrs. Marie-Paul Mazandu and their children, I wish to highlight the following promise of the Lord in Psalm 37, verse 25. I am old now. I have lived a long life, but I have never seen good people abandoned by the Lord or their children begging food. End quote. May our Lord Jesus Christ console you, and may Dr. Mazandu's soul rest in peace. Thank you very much for your attention.
That was Professor Jean Labuma from the University of Kinshasa, who was Gaston's honors supervisor, as you've just heard. The next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is also pre-recorded, and that's the director of the African Institute of Mathematical Sciences in Muizenberg here in Cape Town. And this is Professor Barry Green. So he worked extensively with Gaston in his studies here in South Africa. Thank you. Sorry, colleagues, so while we're trying to locate his recording, we'll probably move on to the next speaker, and that's Professor Antoine Bagula, who is his MSc supervisor from the University of the Western Cape here in Cape Town. So he also contacted UCT after hearing of Gaston's passing and offered his support. Thank you very much.
Good morning, friends, family, and esteemed guests. It was with a heavy heart that we buried Dr. Gaston Kuzamunu Mazandu last weekend in Stellenbosch. And today, we are meeting again here to say goodbye and celebrate his life, the life of a father, a husband, a friend, and a colleague who left us too soon. When reflecting on the life of Gaston and how it is related to mine and many other scientists present here today, I also remember that we all left our countries to look for green pastures for our families and a better future for our children in a country that could offer us better opportunities. In this case, we came here in South Africa to do that. Starting with a diploma degree at EMS, I had the opportunity and privilege of guiding Gaston during 3 successful academic years of his life in South Africa. I supervised his diploma topic at the African Institute of Mathematical Science, and thereafter, he joined the Computer Science Department of the University of Stellenbosch, where he completed an MSc degree under my supervision. As testified by his marks, Gaston cum laude both his diploma at EMS and his MSc degree at Stellenbosch University with a thesis that was published in a book and led to papers in very good conferences and a journal. While at Stellenbosch University, we pioneered work on wireless sensor network within our telecom COE research group that led to a paper entitled Energy Constrained Multipath Routing in Wireless Sensor Network, which has been cited 128 times as of today. As academics, we sometimes sought supervision by challenging the student to tackle a topic that might be above his level of studies. Also, when we discover a smart student, we often stretch the topic's boundary and move the goal post in order to make the student reveal his full potential. During the 3 years that I worked with Mazandu, I never heard him complaining about workload or backing off from a new angle to a topic that I've added. Gaston was a smart student who could work both in group and independently and produce results in a very short period of time. Over the years, besides becoming a colleague with whom I could discuss academic matters, Gaston has become a younger brother who loved and cared a lot for his family and used to call me time to time for advice and sometimes confided in me on matters that regarded his family. I will always remember how he worked very hard to get his family in South Africa when we were still both at Stellenbosch University, and how upon their arrival, he was also scouting for the best schools for his children. As we are celebrating the life of Gaston, we can't discount the legacy that is living on this planet Earth. As a father and husband, he's leaving behind a wife and 4 smart children who have surely inherited his tenaciousness and thirst for knowledge. 2 of his children are studying at the University of Stellenbosch, and the other 2 are still in high school. I hereby remind the Mazandu children who are here present that you had a father who loved and cared a lot about his family. When times of pain, sorrow, and difficulties come, please remember your father who accomplished so much with the little he had been given and was always ready to overcome any obstacle for the sake of his family. Know that he not only loved you, but will always be with you, even if it is in memory. When reflecting on his academic career, one will recognize from the quality of his research output that a rising star in the field of bioinformatics has unfortunately left us too soon. But Gaston is leaving behind colleagues with whom he collaborated in an academic world where, beside the recognition based on achievement, there is no xenophobia, there is no racism, sexism, or any kind of discrimination. Gaston is surely leaving you a legacy of hard work, wisdom, hope, and courage that younger generation should follow. You are a good friend and younger brother, Gaston. May your soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Professor Bagula, thank you for those very warm and encouraging words, especially to his young family. Colleagues, it gives me great privilege at this stage to call on my colleague, Professor Khaled Dandara, who sits alongside me in the Division of Human Genetics and has worked and knows Gaston extremely well. Khaled? So Khaled has been there since hearing of the news and providing support to Gaston's family. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Yes. I want to start by acknowledging Gaston's family. I would really want to ask you to seek comfort and strength in the Lord. Gaston's story is not his story alone. It is the story of many migrants who have left their countries and come to places like South Africa in search of livelihood, but also contributing to South Africa. I want to testify about Gaston's rare expertise. There are very few people who had the expertise that Gaston has. Trained by one of my colleagues here, Nikki Mulder, this expertise has allowed us as Africans to start just being recruiters of participants, taking samples and shipping them away for analysis elsewhere. We've started now to actually enjoy the whole value chain of recruiting participants, collecting data, analyzing samples, and publishing the data on our own. There are very few of these people. When we had Gaston and the few colleagues who are here, we started to see a bright future in terms of Africa per se, starting to look at its own problems and being able to really come up with solutions for about its own problems. So what has happened now with the passing of Gaston is that we have been left with a void, a huge void. However, I am comforted with the issue that Gaston was involved in the training of fellow students. They might not be at the level where he was, but we still have colleagues around, and we still look forward that the same expertise can still continue to be nurtured so that we can continue to contribute to the world in a wholesome manner. I just want to give you an idea of how their expertise is helpful in our situations. In most of the, before we could exploit bioinformatics or computational biology, you could actually have experts in Europe who are experts on conditions that are in Africa, but have never set foot in Africa. Why? Because we would be asked to collect samples, sent to them, and then they could play around with them. This is the area that now Gaston was working in. It really pains me, but I'm also comforted with the scriptures that say Gaston is in good hands. it is us who are going to join him and not him coming back. So I really would want to wish all the students that were left behind. I want to wish the family lots of strength and to continue to be hopeful and to continue possibly to work hard so that at least we can fulfill the what Gaston was about. Gaston was such a person of humility. 4 days before he passed away, we were in a meeting, online meeting. We didn't pick anything. But of course, even in a face-to-face meeting with Gaston, Gaston would not raise his voice, even if he's not in agreement. You had to read his body language. But now with all these online meetings, there's no way to read body languages. People no longer, they will just tell you they're not camera ready and all that. So it went to pass. We didn't realize that Gaston was actually possibly, at that moment we were meeting with him, fighting for his life possibly. It really saddens me, but I still remain with hope that the Almighty has got an answer and will really get into the hearts of all those who have been left and comfort you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Khaled. Mario, and again, thank you for all of the effort that you're making, Mario. It's not easy getting on top of all of these technical connections, etc. So we're all grateful to you. So I promised you that you'd hear from Professor Barry Green, the Director of Mathematical Sciences. I think we have his pre-recorded speech available. So colleagues, Professor Barry.
It is with great sadness that we heard that Dr. Gaston Mazandu passed away on 24th September 2021 in Stellenbosch. He belonged to the second cohort of students at Ames in Muizenberg, the 2004-2005 intake, and throughout his career has remained very close to Ames as a special member of our family and a strong supporter of all our activities. For several years he was a member of our research centre as one of the Canadian IDRC junior research chairs, and then following that, as an affiliated researcher while a member of Professor Nicola Mulder's bioinformatics group in the UCT Faculty of Medicine. He supervised many of our students and made a great effort to involve Ames in successful research projects and activities, most notably recently in the H3A BioNet activity related to genomic research and analysis. We all remember Gaston as a warm, enthusiastic and committed person and a very kind-hearted member of the Ames family. It was terribly sad to hear of his passing on Friday, still at a young age, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends with sincere condolences and a feeling of loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Barry Green. Colleagues, one of the most knowledgeable persons in sickle cell disease on the continent is Professor Kwaku Ohene Frimpong. He worked with Gaston on the sickle cell disease ontology and the sickle cell project. And he's known Gaston for a very long time. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Professor Kwaku Ohene Frimpong, and he's live online as far as I know. Professor Frimpong, welcome to the University of Cape Town. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I am honored and also saddened to represent our international colleagues in 7 sub-Saharan countries in a program called Sickle Cell Disease in Sub-Saharan Africa Consortium, also known as Sickle in Africa. The consortium, funded by the US National Institutes of Health, is organized to conduct research in sickle cell disease, a disease that affects mostly people of African descent in Africa and also globally.
Gaston is a member of the University of Cape Town team led by Professor Ambrose Wonkum that serves as the data coordinating center for the consortium. I want to express the heartfelt condolences of the dozens of scientists working on the network to the family of Gaston and to the University of Cape Town community, of which he was a relatively young member. I first met Gaston as a member of a group assembled by Professor Nick Mulder and Ambrose Wonkum of the University of Cape Town to work on codifying the terminology and definitions used in research and clinical management of sickle cell disease. This was a project on sickle cell ontology. Now, I am supposed to be a senior scientist, an expert in sickle cell disease. However, in stepping into the community of ontologists, I realized how inadequate my own knowledge was in such an important field. In fact, I famously asked the question, what is ontology, at the first meeting? I had the privilege to work closely with Gaston to define the terms used in hemoglobin disorders as related to sickle cell disease. Working with Gaston and his team of students was an exhilarating experience. I find Gaston to be the soft-spoken, affable scientist who had the onerous task of teaching an old man new tricks. His knowledge of the field was impressive, as exemplified by the respect he commanded from his students and colleagues. I learned so much from Gaston and will always remember his wry humor, wit, and infectious smile and laugh. Gaston left us too early because there is so much more that we needed to learn from him to benefit the work we have all committed ourselves to do. We will miss Gaston and hope that his memory will strengthen all of us to honor his name by achieving some of the goals he had set for himself and for all of us. Thank you. My condolences again to the family.
Professor Frimpong, thank you very much for your time. You're live online, and I know that you've sacrificed some time to get to us. So colleagues, the next speaker, who's representative of all of the students that Gaston had supervised, is Dr. Epifania Gesa, who's a postdoctoral researcher in the Division of Computational Biology here at the University of Cape Town. She's been one of Gaston's PhD students, and she will speak on behalf of the students. Epifania.
Good afternoon. It's so sad that I'm speaking on behalf of Gaston students today. So I met Gaston at the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, South African Center in 2014. I was doing my MSc in Mathematical Sciences by then, and Gaston introduced me to bioinformatics as my supervisor. I later started my PhD under his supervision. And I remember the first days he told me, Epi, you are a Christian, you are doing population genetics. Let this not endanger your faith. So as Gaston students, Gaston was a great mentor. He taught us the definition of humility. He would always address us as friends. And he would always hide his emotions as he cared about people's feelings and well-being. I remember I had funding issues in 2016. And because as a caring father, as a caring mentor, Gaston had to chip in fund my trip to go home so that I could sort out things that needed to be sorted out. Gaston would always say, be careful. No place is too safe. These events are rare, but they happen. So you'll be trying to make sure that you should be careful of your environment because you can be mugged anytime. He was a great teacher. A teacher who would always know that you didn't understand or you are not understanding, even if you pretend to. He was always quick to notice when you are not feeling well. On August 18, 2021, I sent him a message on his birthday, and it was on behalf of all the mentees. And part of the message read, I hope the new age will bring many new fantastic experiences. And we look forward to continuing to do great work with you. Unfortunately, Gaston departed before he experienced the new age fantastics. And before he even fulfilled his desire of going back to DRC, as he would always say that if I'm done with the project that I'm doing now, I need to go back to DRC. To the family, to the friends, and all the colleagues, may we find strength in Jesus Christ. And may Gaston's soul continue to rest in the light. Thank you.
Epifania, thank you very much for those very warm words. Colleagues, Ambrose Wonkum is Professor of Human Genetics here at our institution. He came much like Gaston although Gaston came from the DRC, Ambrose came over from Cameroon after doing a transit time in Europe. He came to join us more than a decade ago. It's my great privilege then to ask Professor Ambrose Wonkum to present a pre-recorded speech. So he's the director also of the GeneMap Research Project and principal investigator of the SADC project, within which he was a line manager of Gaston. And Ambrose has been very supportive both to the group and to Gaston's family. Thanks very much, Mario.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Amwas Wonkam. I'm Professor of Medical Genetics and Director of Genetic Medicine of African Population, the research center in which Gaston have been working for the past 5 years. I have known Gaston as a senior colleague in charge of developing the sickle Africa data specific center that we all been working for the past 5 years. And this SADC program is within Sickle in Africa, which is a global program in Africa that incorporates at the moment 7 different African countries. Gaston have been in charge for the developing the sickle ontology, sickle cell disease ontology, the only one that we are aware of in the world, and we will own him that. Gaston also have been the leader in developing our sickle cell database. If you had the opportunity to see the website dedicated to this event, you will quickly notice how esteemed Gaston was in the sickle cell disease network on the continent and across the continent, by kind words coming from Brazil, from Jamaica, from America, from Europe, and from multiple places on the continent. We have lost a kind human being, a humble human being. We have lost a great professional and a great teacher. And I'm pretty sure that across Africa and within South Africa and far above Africa, there are numerous students, numerous mentees that are asking what they would be doing with life without Gaston. Today, I would like to ask all of us, all of you, not to mourn the darkness that Gaston passing have pushed us toward, but to remember the light and to light candles that have evolved from his life. Today, I will ask Gaston's wife and the 4 children to find strength in their heart, to find the courage to imagine what their husband, father, brothers have brought to this continent, to find the courage in their heart by imagining what Gaston have brought to the life of so many people around him, with his so big smile, with his kindness. We lost a trusted colleague. We lost a gentle human being. The day before Gaston passed, I had the privilege to speak to him when he was at hospital. And I cannot imagine that he still finds strength to send me a message just a few hours through email before his passing, just to thank that we were able to call him. That was Gaston was pushing himself to the possible boundaries in order to make others around him feel comfortable. Let not mourn the darkness. Let light the candles and remember the light Gaston brought to our lives. Today is the time to remember through Gaston passing the life of so many Africans across Africa and out of Africa that are far away from home. Today, at the time Gaston is resting in the hills on the top of Stellenbosch, far away from the hills of Congo where he's originated, it is a time to ask why. It is a time to ask his family in Congo to rest in peace by imagining that home is finally where we live and where we die, to imagine that the new home of Gaston far away in the hills of Stellenbosch is the home where he's resting in peace. It's a time to question why so many of talented Africans have to fly, forced by the circumstances of their own country, by war, by artificially created poverty, by searching for academic opportunity or economic opportunity that the geopolitical conditions across the world have not allowed to build in their own place. By flying from the richest places on earth like Congo, where we could have built probably one of the shiniest countries on the African continent, but we can't, and we all know why. Today, it is the time to remember we have lost a great soldier that have shown us some of the path that we as young Africans, we have to follow in order to imagine an Africa that is free from colonialism or neocolonialism, that is free from those conditions created by geopolitics that pushes us far away from home and die away from home. Gaston passing is a tragedy. Too soon, at the tender years of 51, when his family needed him most, when we needed him most. But Gaston passing create some level of darkness around us, a dark sky and in plain sight. Let's remember that it is in the darkest of night that the brightest stars shine. And those brightest stars, like Gaston have been, will continue to show us the light, to show us the wise ways of peace, of kindness, of humility, of humanity, the way Gaston lived his life. Let's remember, is the way we should follow. May you, Gaston, live in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambrose. Colleagues, we move on then to tributes from family and friends. So as many of you know and you've heard that when Gaston came to South Africa and decided to live in Stellenbosch, he actually had no family around him. And the Congolese community was his family here. Papa Fidel Bokoyo Itondo is the most senior and leading member of this group in Stellenbosch. He has been supporting Gaston's family during this difficult time. It's my pleasure to ask Papa Fidel Bokoyo Itondo to say a few words. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name, like they say, my name is Fidel Bokoyo Itondo. I'm one of the leader of Congolese community in Stellenbosch. It's a small community where we gathering and we sort out our problem and our issues. We are here to celebrate Gaston's life. Normally, I've met Gaston around about 2006 or 2005 from there, when he came to live in Stellenbosch. Normally, I knew Gaston through my wife and Gaston's wife. They've been friends. They just meet on the shopping malls sometimes, and they've been talking about one day, my wife introduced me to his wife. And then from there, we start our relationship. And that relationship went too strong. And Gaston was like my brother, like my young brother. And Gaston, like everybody knows, and like we see here, Gaston was like my brother, like I said. We was always talking about politics, especially politics from my country. And his wife and my wife, they was always arguing about us because when we meet, we can't separate it soon. We're gonna talk 2 or 3 hours discussing and talking, and his wife is gonna be cross. He say, "Hey, let's go. What are you doing? It's enough." And my wife also is gonna say, "No, let's go." When we meet in the mall, it's his wife is gonna take a trolley, go to his car, and my wife take a trolley, go to his. But we were still talking and talk. Yeah, Gaston was yeah. And since I've been meet Gaston, he was not just like a friend. Gaston was like my brother. He was like my young brother. And we do have some discussion about the family matters and the problem, but we always give each other advice about how to accommodate our life in kind of situation. And with the time when we were living in Stellenbosch, we did notice some Congolese people, newcomers in Stellenbosch. And there was one young man in our community who came to me and he asked me, his name is Gilles Kibambe, but he's not here, he went back home. He came to me, asked me, "Big brother, you know, now we are so many Congolese around here. What is if we make up some community so we can solve out?" Because we, you know, when people they are gathering around, we always have some issues. We know as African, everybody knows. We have some issues we have to get in, and always we was always come give advice, and he said, no, we can make a small organization where we can have a proper way of sort out our issues. And then I sent him to Gaston. And Gaston was agree with him. He said, yeah, it's a good idea. And from there, Gaston was taking everything, start encouraging people to try to be together. And on March 30, 2014, we make up our organization in Stellenbosch for people, Congolese people who living in Stellenbosch. And Gaston was elected the same day with me. He was like a general secretary, and me, I was like a president. So we've been conduct our community until today. And Gaston was a really a key member of our community. He helped our community in terms of our organization, in terms of conducting debate, appointing some issues to debate in the meeting. And he was really helpful for every member of our community. And I think we're gonna remember Gaston in our community for his humbleness. Look, Gaston, he was so humble. My wife always call him doctor, doctor, doctor. Even Pastor Matondo, when he saw him, he always call him doctor. But Gaston never wanted to be called doctor. No, I'm not the doctor. I'm just a human being like you. Why you call? And my wife always go, no, we have to respect you. We so humble. He was Gaston. I always fight with him about this. I said, no, Gaston, you have to take your grade. That you have to. He said, no. I said, but the work you always do, you don't see it. As we feel it, he said, no, don't worry. It's just. And his wife always come to my wife and say, oh, your brother-in-law there, it's always busy on the computer. Always. When she come to my house, she sit and we ask, where is Gaston? He say, oh, he's at home, always on this computer. Always. I say, that is a doctor. That is a doctor. And when he come to fetch his wife, he come to fetch his wife, but he forget to fetch his wife. He start talking to me politics, and we carry on. And his wife was angry. He said, okay, me, I'm walk. You're gonna drive along. That's how I know Gaston was. He wasn't just. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna remember Gaston, and our community will gonna miss him very, very, very much. Thank you for listening to my nonsense.
Thank you very much, Papa Fidel, for adding a bit of humor to a rather somber proceeding and capturing the essence of who Gaston was, his greatness as well as his humility. So colleagues, carrying on with, we're moving towards the end of the proceedings, but we've got some very important people, and these are folk who are associated with Gaston, both at home as well as where he's come from in Kinshasa. So Ntata Moloi Baluba Jose Claude is a friend of Gaston's from Congo. Ntata was Gaston's friend back in Congo, and he has generously offered the family a room with internet at the University of Kinshasa. This is the family back home in Kinshasa, where they are watching this memorial right now. So from the University of Cape Town to the family of Gaston who are in Kinshasa at the moment, our deepest condolences. We mourn with you the sad losing of a brother and family member. Thank you. If we could just have the talk by Ntata, and that's pre-recorded.
Give me a sec. I just want to get. There we go. Sorry. Just the English translation for. There we go. It's no, he speaks in French. So this is the English translation for it. So, yes, no, we'll broadcast it now. I just want to.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je tiens à vous saluer et à vous dire que je suis réellement touché de participer à cette cérémonie de célébration en mémoire de feu Dr Gaston Mazandu Kuzamunu dit Maz. Je suis un de ses condisciples qui ont étudié avec lui ici à l'Université de Kinshasa, où je me trouve. J'ai cheminé avec lui durant le premier cycle. Nous avons fait le second cycle jusqu'à terminer ensemble. C'était un certain 31 décembre 1997 que nous avons défendu nos mémoires et nous avons été proclamés licenciés, diplômés en mathématiques de notre département. Nous avons ensuite travaillé avec Maz en tant que membre du corps scientifique parce que nous avions rempli les conditions pour être retenus parmi ceux qui pouvaient être dans la carrière académique. Nous avions été recrutés et nous avons travaillé ensemble jusqu'à ce que lui, il est parti pour le Sud-Afrique, continuer ses études post-universitaires et aujourd'hui, il nous a quittés vraiment à la fleur de l'âge. Je dois reconnaître que Maz, que j'ai connu, en tout cas plus de 25 ans, parce que nous avons défendu le 31 décembre, comme je l'ai dit, 1997, donc ça fait près de 25 ans. Et nous nous sommes connus au-delà, donc près de 30 ans que nous nous sommes connus avec Maz. Maz, je dois vous avouer que c'était un garçon très appliqué parce que le parcours de Maz était un parcours élogieux. D'abord, il a attrapé à l'Université de Kinshasa une inscription au département de mathématiques, alors que lui, il avait fait les humanités pédagogiques. Pour éclaircir la lanterne de ceux qui nous suivent, les humanités pédagogiques ne sont pas vraiment proches de ceux qui doivent embrasser la carrière, les études en mathématiques. Ceux qui font la pédagogie, ils sont orientés vers l'enseignement. L'enseignement du niveau primaire. Et s'ils sont au niveau supérieur, ils peuvent aussi embrasser, continuer, mais cette fois-ci au niveau secondaire. Mais Maz, quand il est arrivé à l'Université de Kinshasa, il a obtenu son inscription à la faculté des sciences au département de mathématiques. Et lui, qui n'avait pas assez de bagages en mathématiques, il a pu quand même combler son retard et jusqu'à avoir des prestations très remarquables. Ça, je dois l'avouer, ce n'est pas donné à tout le monde. Quelqu'un qui a fait une orientation qui n'est pas proche des mathématiques, mais qui vient les embrasser et parvient aussi à se distinguer tel que Maz l'a fait. Donc, c'est pour souligner que c'était un gars vraiment talentueux qui s'appliquait et qui a pu, en tout cas, vraiment être apprécié. Maz était celui qui pouvait travailler seul avec l'enseignant lors des travaux pratiques. On peut comprendre que en mathématiques, parfois, il y a des théories qui peuvent être un peu difficiles à croquer. Ça, je crois que vous avez, tout le monde a une idée de ce que c'est les maths. Et Maz pouvait se retrouver seul avec l'encadrant durant les séances de travaux pratiques parce que les autres ont quitté la salle ou bien ils sont fatigués ou bien pour une raison ou une autre. Mais lui, il se retrouve avec l'encadrant pour passer la séance, pour comprendre que c'est un garçon qui était vraiment appliqué et qui, quand il s'applique, vous appréciez en tout cas sa façon de s'appliquer. Donc, j'ai vraiment des bons souvenirs de notre regretté Maz. Il était un gars vraiment talentueux, ça je dois l'avouer. Toute la promotion devra être unanime autour de ça. C'était vraiment un garçon très appliqué. Et quand il a fini, c'était tout à fait aussi normal qu'il soit retenu dans le corps scientifique parce que quelqu'un qui se défendait très valablement, il avait sa place dans le corps scientifique de notre université. Il a été retenu, nous avons œuvré avec lui pendant un temps. Il a presté en tant qu'assistant jusqu'à ce qu'il a eu cette opportunité de quitter le pays pour continuer en Afrique du Sud où il est allé. Et vous vous rendez compte, il a pu aussi terminer son DEA et par après, il a pu embrasser les PhD pour effectivement décrocher ses diplômes. Ça ne nous étonne pas. En tout cas, que Maz puisse arriver à cela, vu son passé, il était vraiment promu à cela et il n'a fait que confirmer tout ce qu'on a eu à penser de lui. Donc, je tiens vraiment à rendre un hommage appuyé à ce condisciple qui nous a quittés vraiment à la fleur de l'âge, très tôt, de façon très brutale, parce que nous n'avons pas appris qu'il était malade. Et comme j'ai lu aussi dans les écrits de quelques-uns, j'ai lu qu'il travaillait même au cours de la semaine où il nous a quittés. Le lundi, il était au service. Et voilà que le vendredi, il nous quitte. C'est franchement une surprise pour nous quand nous avons appris la nouvelle. Ça nous a réellement consternés de voir que quelqu'un qui était promis à un avenir très radieux, qui pouvait encore servir pour la cause non seulement de notre pays, mais aussi la cause de notre continent, quelqu'un qui avait vraiment l'étoffe d'être un panafricaniste dans les établissements d'enseignement supérieur et universitaire. Voilà qu'il pouvait alors nous quitter ainsi de cette façon. Bon, on ne peut que s'incliner, Dieu seul sait le pourquoi. Nous pouvons que, en tout cas, nous incliner devant la volonté de Dieu, mais saluer la mémoire de celui qui vient de nous quitter. D'ailleurs, quand j'étais encore un coup d'œil sur Google Scholar, j'ai été vraiment édifié de constater que ces publications ont atteint ces nombres qu'ils ont atteint. Donc, c'est pour dire que c'était vraiment un garçon travailleur, appliqué, et voilà que quand il a décroché son PhD, il a encore fait ses preuves, ne fût-ce que le temps qu'il a travaillé, à atteindre les nombres de publications qu'il a eu à faire. C'est vraiment à la hauteur de ces personnes que nous sommes en train, à qui nous sommes en train de rendre hommage en ce moment. Donc, Maz, c'est ces messieurs qui pouvaient encore apporter plus à la formation de la jeunesse, apporter plus dans le combat que l'Afrique est en train de mener ça et là pour que nous puissions aussi résoudre nos problèmes. Hélas, Maz est parti très tôt. Ça nous a vraiment consternés. Il pouvait bien servir pour notre pays, tout comme servir pour le Sud-Afrique où il était résident, tout comme d'autres pays africains, parce qu'il avait vraiment l'étoffe d'être en mesure et d'être à la hauteur. Notre peine, c'est vraiment la peine aussi de sa famille. Nous pensons à sa veuve Malou et aux enfants, les enfants qu'il a laissés. Nous vraiment partageons notre peine et nous avons des pensées chaleureuses pour eux et nous savons que ce n'est pas facile de perdre un papa en pareille période et voilà qu'il se retrouve devant des questions pour l'avenir. Mais nous sommes aussi croyants, nous autres nous croyons à un Dieu puissant. Nous croyons que Jésus-Christ, qui est le vainqueur de la mort, qui a les clés de la mort et qui a les clés de la résurrection, en tout cas, nous savons que pour ceux qui croient en lui, tout autour de lui, ils vont se retrouver un jour. Donc, il est celui qui sait réellement consoler, qui sait réellement donner encore de l'espoir à ceux qui en ont besoin. Et en pareille circonstance, nous ne pouvons que élever nos prières pour qu'effectivement, ils puissent consoler l'âme éplorée et la maman et soit sa veuve, ses enfants et la famille biologique ici à Kinshasa, notre Seigneur Jésus puisse vraiment les consoler et qu'il puisse garder l'espoir en lui, lui qui nous montre le chemin pour qu'un jour, malgré la séparation due à la mort, nous puissions nous retrouver autour de lui et que nous puissions effectivement encore être ensemble, des retrouvailles, mais alors cette fois-là pour l'éternité. En tout cas, je ne peux que dire ces peu de mots pour saluer la mémoire de mon condisciple, j'ai cité, Gaston, docteur Gaston Maz Kuzamunu. Et comme on dit, les artistes ne meurent jamais. Ces publications, certainement, vont servir l'humanité. Il sera cité, il sera en tout cas lu par pas mal de chercheurs et il continuera après lui à servir encore l'humanité. C'est ça, le bien fondé d'un chercheur. Donc, il continuera à s'aimer par ce qu'il a pu produire. Donc, son nom certainement sera un nom qui aura à être toujours cité, une façon d'honorer sa mémoire. Ça, sans nul doute. Et il a s'aimer et il mérite. Alors, en ce moment-là, c'est qu'on aura à dire de lui par la suite par tous ceux qui vont en tout cas recourir à ces publications. Donc, tous mes encouragements à la veuve, comme je l'ai dit, et aux enfants, et qu'ils puissent vraiment garder l'espoir. Et je vous remercie, vous qui avez tenu à organiser cette rencontre afin de honorer la mémoire de notre regretté docteur Maz. J'ai dit et je vous remercie.
Very much, Mario. Thank you, Ntata. Colleagues, it brings me to the part where we hear from those even closer to Gaston. So I have a message here that Claude Bilandi Kuzamunu, who's Gaston's brother, might talk. I'm just checking if he's available. No, he's not. Okay, thanks very much. And then obviously closest to Gaston is Madame Marie-Paul Malungiri, his wife, and their children, Jemima, Claudie, Karen, and Emmanuel. And the family got together and they put together some of their thoughts. And Jemima, the oldest daughter, wrote the tribute, and a family friend will read it. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Adele Bendiatondo, and I'm going to read this to you on behalf of these children. On the 24th of September, Friday morning, was when we received the news of my father's passing. It was sad and shocking. I had imagined him being present at our graduation. His support would have been much needed. My father loved working. I think if it was not for work, then he would have been sleeping on the couch closest to the TV. He also loved listening to music, as well as listening to our country's political news. I also learned that my father was not so talkative when it came to general things such as likes and dislikes. So the only way I could engage him in a conversation was if if I talked about work, his or mine, or if I talked about something that was bothering me. In many of our conversations, he offered advice. I found this helpful in times when I was not so sure about myself. It is in this way I feel I have lost. He was a man of laughter, very joyful, even when life was hard. My father achieved a lot in his lifetime. He managed to make something from a very difficult beginning where many would have quit, and that I believe is his greatest win in life. May it indeed be well with your soul. I thank you all.
Santondo, thank you very much for that, and thank you, family, for sharing your thoughts with us. Colleagues, it's not in the program, but it's my privilege to ask Professor Nicola Mulder, whose name you've heard mentioned earlier on, and she's been a great guide to our colleague, Gaston, in his career development here in South Africa. So Nikki Mulder is the professor and head of the Division of Computational Biology here at the University of Cape Town. Nikki, it's my pleasure to say a few words. Thanks.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak as I spoke at the funeral last week, but I see so many people here from CBio and people whose lives have touched from many different places. So firstly, again, my condolences to the family. Gaston, I met him 13 years ago and he came to ask me to do a PhD with me. And of all the students that I've supervised, he was the fastest. He completed his entire PhD work in 2 years. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And that was Gaston. You know, you think about where people say, oh, you've done great work, but it's not me, it's people around me. You know, I surround myself with the best people, and Gaston was one of those. He led that group of amazing people that all mostly came from AIMS. And you know, his publication record just stands out for itself. He was just the most amazing scientist. But I just wanted to say to the students and the people in my lab, the people through H3 Bionet, Pan-African Bioinformatics Network, who he's worked with, but the students who he's been taught by. He moved in my lab from PhD student, he was a postdoc with me, then he was a lecturer, senior academic, and he was about to be made associate professor. So he moved from a trainee to teacher, and he moved from mentee to mentor. And I hope that the students will just carry on the legacy. We know that the publications, scientific publications, all his work will be out there for the world to build on. But I hope that his students will take what he's taught you, and so Gaston will live on, and his science will live on, and his qualities will live on through the students and the rest of the staff in my group. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nikki, for those kind words. Colleagues, just moving towards the end then. So, you know, you've heard everybody talk about Gaston and the work he's contributed to, and that will remain in the past and will grow with him as he grows into the future. But what I want to remind us is that Gaston lives on not just in our memories, but in his family. I mean, I speak as a geneticist, and most of you in this audience know that a parent, a father or a mother contributes 50% of their genetic material to their child. So your child is half of you effectively. So in 4 of his children here, you can see Gaston twice over, which is a wonderful way of seeing Gaston's personality, character, and his biology go through. But obviously we realize Gaston was absolutely unique. So as much as you can pass off bits of you, that's just one consolation with regards to when you're looking for Gaston, certainly don't go looking in the sky. You can go look in the sky, but Gaston sits amongst us in the work he's produced and in the family that he's produced, and who will be doing amazing work. From everything I've heard, I think your future is very bright, and thanks to your mom as well as to your dad for contributing to that. Colleagues, to the last item on the agenda then brings me to the vote of thanks. And Dr. Vicky Nambaware, who worked closely with Gaston for many years, is very appropriately the person to give the vote of thanks. Thank you. And I remind you, colleagues, again, because it's COVID, I invited you for a meal afterwards, but I understand the meal is packed because of COVID. We can't stand around and as much as we'd like to stand and chat and reminisce about Gaston, unfortunately, we're going to have to take the packed parcels and leave, I presume. Thank you very much.
To the Dean, the head of department, Raj, to our principal investigators, Ambrose and Nikki, thank you for your support and giving us this time to reflect. This makes us certain that Gaston was valued and his contributions were valued. It validates us who remain behind that we matter. Thank you to the Congolese community, both in Stellenbosch and in Kinshasa, for connecting with us and working with us in celebrating Gaston's life. To everyone who came and who connected online, hundreds of students and collaborators, we have sent messages of support. Thank you. To the Mazandu family and Kentani Bilande family, thank you for nurturing such a fantastic human being. He was a true reflection of what his home was like. Thank you to Madam Malu, to Jemima, to Glody, to Karen, and to Emmanuel for sharing your dad with us, for letting him travel and work so many hours, and also for allowing us to grieve with you and to celebrate Gaston's life. It was impossible not to care deeply for Gaston. He was sincere and compassionate. He cared deeply for his family. He spoke very fondly of you every day. Our grief is deep and is profound. I will not repeat the many good characteristics of Gaston, but I'll emphasize one. He had this rare quality to look me in the eye and say, Vicky, my friend, that was excellent work, well done, which is very rare in our community, to have someone who really genuinely celebrates other people's achievements. So today, I ask all of you to stand and say well done to Gaston for a life well lived. For a person at 52 to have achieved what he has, to have nurtured so many professors, to have laid foundations for a sickle cell community, for work that's going to go on and be used for thousands of years to come. I want to say thank you, Gaston. That was excellent. It was a life well lived. So please stand and give a standing ovation to my friend and colleague to say well done. That was an excellent life.
Vicky, thanks you for personifying literally how every one of us feels. Colleagues, please take a seat before we depart from the venue. Colleagues, we've heard many of the messages. Colleagues in the audience, colleagues online, thank you for the time you've spent this afternoon with us. It's a tiny part of our lives, but honors a great human being and great work and a family that's filled with greatness and whom we hope can reflect in the appreciation that we've had for your father and for your husband, Madame. Gaston was a fantastic human being. And Vicky, we couldn't have ended it in a better way. So colleagues, I just wanted to say that we will, I mean, I just felt horrible sitting there and see Vicky break down And it's a time of COVID. You can't even get up and hug somebody or say, sorry, I know you hurt. So that's keeping us so artificially separate. So colleagues, just please understand the way we're separated here today, or we're needing to separate when we get out and not stop and talk and engage and hug, is just unfortunately the climate at the moment because of COVID. And we're a faculty of health sciences. We're meant to be setting an example. But rest assured, I think everyone in the audience feels so deeply about wanting to hug and hold one to one another, because we're all crying and broken inside. With that, thank you, colleagues. And thanks to everybody that Vicky's already thanked. To colleagues online, thanks very much for your time. And lastly, to the Mazandu family, thanks very much for coming and sharing your time with us. Thank you, colleagues.